Well, the first and much anticipated Cabinet Lekgotla of the Government of National Unity is currently underway in Pretoria. The Lekgotla will be attended by representatives from the 9 political parties that make up the GNU. The two-day gathering will be presided over by President Cyril Ramaphosa and his deputy Paul Mashatile. The meeting is expected to draft a program of action for the country over the next 5 years. All right, for more on this, let's now welcome, of course, in studio with us, senior political reporter Samkele Maseko to just give us, of course, some of the day's wrap of what has transpired at that Cabinet Lekgotla. Samkele, again, thank you so much for joining us. Now, you've been very busy all morning at the first 7th administration Cabinet Lekgotla. What did you observe there? Is everybody talking, as the president is alluding to, and what really are they talking about?
Essentially, what's the top of the agenda for this Cabinet Lekgotla is the South African economic situation, the doldrums that the economy is in. Second at the top of the agenda is the issue of the floods and the fires that have ravaged the province of the Western Cape, which would be the floods. You go to the province of KwaZulu-Natal in the King Pretoria district, the fires that are ranging within that particular area. The Minister of Human Settlements, Mamloko Kubai, and the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, the former mayor of KwaZulu-Natal and the president of the IFP, Vulunkosini Hlabisa, is spearheading that particular phase of trying to quell down those particular fires in the King Pretoria district. Mamloko Kubai is also working with the Western Cape provincial government, with Premier Ellen Windi, who is seated alongside John Steenhuisen. Interestingly, in the Cabinet Lekgotla, we also saw Peter Groenewald of the Freedom Front Plus. They are all in the Cabinet Lekgotla. Gayton McKenzie of the Patriotic Alliance, and also the Good Party. They are also represented there, and the Inkatha Freedom Party as well. So it's very jovial spirits in the Cabinet Lekgotla, but topical issues of the country, the economy, the issues of energy and electricity, and also the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and underdevelopment are the cornerstone of what is being discussed in this Cabinet Lekgotla, which will pretty much set the tone for this 7th administration of the Government of National Unity. But all importantly, the President and the Minister in the Presidency will not give a report back on the outcomes of this Cabinet Lekgotla. The outcomes will be revealed to South Africans at 7 o'clock live on the SABC 404 when the President takes on the podium at the State of the Nation address.
Awesome stuff. Great news, Samkele. But did you get a sense, I know we made mention to it, that it seemed like as a build-up to the Lekgotla, the different ministers were actually going out on their own accord, so to speak, and making certain statements. Did it seem like on the ground they're starting to form this unified and united front and basically speaking in one voice that is, of course, to champion the challenges of the South African citizens?
When the President opened with his political overview or opening of the meeting, he did speak about ministers not speaking willy-nilly, out of turn. Said there is must be government coherence. Ministers can't be at each other's throats, regardless of their political caps that they have when they step out of their government caps. Whether you've got a blue cap, a red cap, a black and green and gold, a green and orange, a black and white of the IFP, that is regardless. Because once you don the colors of the Minister of Home Affairs, the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Minister of Public Works, Minister of Agriculture, and all the other ministries, you are representing all South Africans, not a particular segment of society that may have voted for your political formation, but you are serving at the behest of the President in the national executive of the country, as the President is elected by parliamentarians and he chooses from the pool of the 400 MPs who then becomes part of his executive as ministers and ultimately as deputy ministers. So there is a sense of coherence in the Government of National Unity. The only issue, the proof in the pudding, will be when they ultimately have the President standing on the podium in Parliament on Thursday, reporting back to South Africans in the State of the Nation address, in the official opening of Parliament, on the program of action of this 7th administration. The Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Nchaveni, basically saying that there's no Minister of the ANC in Cabinet, there's no Minister of the Democratic Alliance or any other political formation or that are part of the Government of National Unity. It is the ministers that are representing South Africans in their entirety, between race, class, sex, religion, Christianity, or whatever. They are there serving all South Africans regardless of their own personal views. So in essence, the president has read the riot act to those particular ministers and has told them to get down to the business of the day, which is the economic situation of the country, energy security, electricity, resolving the crisis that is there within infrastructure in municipalities as well, and alleviating poverty, inequality, and underdevelopment.
Samkele, there was rumors about certain parties putting out of the GNU. Let's talk about the final tally now that is confirmed, that is part of the GNU, as you have observed at the Cabinet Lekgotla, the parties that are represented.
There are 18 parties in the National Assembly. In the Government of National Unity, there are 9 political formations that are there. And in the executive of the country, there are 7 political formations. The other political parties who are part of the GNU, like your Rise Mzansis, they are occupying other positions within the broader scheme of South Africa's government, which is the 3 arms of the state, the legislature, the executive, and also the judiciary, which politicians don't get too involved in within that particular aspect. But Rise Mzansi, you do have Song Ezozibu, who is the chairperson of SCOPA, and you've got other political formations who are represented in the various portfolio committees in the National Assembly that was voted upon last week, this week in the National Assembly. So ultimately what you do have is 7 of the 9 are part of the executive. The others are allocated and given responsibilities in the legislative arm of the state, which is the National Assembly. So all 9 of them were in, all 7 of them were part of the executive. As deputy ministers, as ministers, they were part of the Cabinet Lekgotla.
And I think this is a very important point to note, Samkele, because we keep getting numbers. Is it 11, is it 10 or 7? So thank you so much for the clarity. So I'm sure people are wondering, what then happens to the parties that have decided to take the opposition stance? Are they part of the Lekgotla? Are they outside of the Lekgotla? Will they also learn for the very first time what the actual mandate for the country is for the next 5 years in earnest when the president gives us those outcomes?
Let's just clarify this particular point. Political parties are not there in their political party caps in the Cabinet Lekgotla. You've got ministers who are there in their caps in this Cabinet Lekgotla as ministers, as deputy ministers appointed by the president. They are not there in their political
individual capacities.
Individual capacities as ANC, DA, Freedom Front Plus, Al Jamaa, and all these other political formations. They are there in their capacity as ministers and deputy ministers, led by the commander-in-chief, which is the president of the Republic of South Africa. They are deliberating there with director generals, with heads of departments, whom are the official bureaucrats whom are giving the line of march and whom are the functionaries in government. For instance, in the morning, you look at a presentation that was done by the Ministry of Electricity and Energy. It was led by a scholar and someone who works within the energy space, who was giving a feedback that South Africa's economic trajectory heavily also is reliant in the tapping in within the energy space. And within that energy space, you're looking at nuclear, you're looking at solar, renewable energy. Hence the fast tracking of the procurement of the 2,500 megawatt nuclear power station that will ultimately be built in the Eastern Cape or in another province like the Northern Cape, where it is projected to be built. Remember the old plans in the era of former President Jacob Zuma, where that 9,000 megawatt proposed nuclear power station that was going to be built by the Russians, it's now been lowered down to 2,500 megawatts. It is ultimately going to go to procurement, and funding models are being discussed, and that was also presented at this Cabinet Lekgotla in order to unlock the economic opportunities that are there within the country. And also the Department of Trade and Industry, led by Pakstau, will be speaking about the economic trajectory of the country. You've had Mamloko Kupai speaking of the human settlements. You've had SABC speaking on issues relating to cooperative governance and municipalities, and also agriculture will be debated upon in order to ensure that there is food security within the country.